Welcome to Divisive Issues, a comic book podcast about stupid comic books and comic book related things. I'm Ryan Lynch.
I'm Sly Crappa.
And I'm Joe Ciano from Earth 2.
So, you might notice that Joe's dulcet tones sound a little less or more dulcet. I don't really know what dulcet means.
I don't either.
What's the reason for that, Ryan?
Yeah, I forgot the joke. Okay, I got it. So, it turns out that our main publisher, DC, wants to use Joe in a movie, so we have to use a bullshit character nobody cares about named Phil.
That's me.
Who's a lot more relatable to the hip teens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that much about comics. If I look at my nerd licensing right here, yeah, my comic book nerd certification is only a Class D, so, you know...
So what does that mean?
It means I've seen the comic book movies. You know, Sly's forced me to read a comic here and there, but, you know, I couldn't
at
tell
gunpoint.
you... Yeah, at gunpoint, obviously.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you which issues anything came from or the backstory of non-major characters.
So to try to convince you that comic books are real literature for grown-ups, we had you join the show to read the worst comic books ever.
I am a grown-up.
So what are we doing today?
Yeah, what are we doing today? Let's see. We are going to talk about the much requested DC story Flashpoint by Geoff Johns and Andy Kubert. You want to give a little backstory on it, Sly?
So this was the story that DC used to reboot their entire line of comic books back in whatever year,
2011?
2011.
Something like that.
Yeah, so basically this was the last hurrah for the Flashpoint version of the characters. So the characters that we got familiar with, and if we were reading comics at the time, for the last 2 decades or so, they were erased with the story and replaced with a new version of the characters. And this was the story that sent them all off.
I think every single DC story we've done has been that era, right? Pre-Flashpoint?
Yep, we haven't done a single New 52 as post-Flashpoint continuity is called set of comics at all yet.
So I have a question for you guys. When they rebooted, did they release more lines of comics as a result?
Yes. It was called the New 52 because they bumped up the number of comics to 52.
I have no idea how many they had before that.
It was like 36 or something. It was like exponential growth to the point people said this will never last, and people were right. It didn't last.
Yeah.
They canceled most of the titles after the first few months.
Sounds like marketing bullshit to me.
Yeah.
And the New 52 era of DC actually ended like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
they just rebooted it again, and that gives you a taste of how reliable DC continuity is and how much you can get invested in it.
They've rebooted a bunch of times, and we're probably going to talk about each one of those reboots at some point. But right now, we're going to talk about Flashpoint. So, should we give the elevator pitch of what the story is, Sly?
Well, if the story were...
Or actually, let's let Phil do it.
Yeah.
Because Phil has no context.
Okay.
Or you should tell us what you thought this comic was based on how we described it.
So, years ago, you described this as...
Oh, this is going to have spoilers, I guess. Yeah, nobody read this book before we get into the spoiler. It's bad. So don't read it.
Yeah.
The way I was told this book would go by you guys is that Flash ran back in time and punched his mom in the face, and everything changed. And kind of when I read it, that's kind of the gist I got. The elevator pitch, I guess, is Flash falls down the stairs into an alternate timeline, and everything is terrible. That's the story.
Yeah, pretty much. So the backstory leading up to the story is that Barry Allen, the Flash, who, if you've seen the TV show, that's, he's the Flash, was dead for a long time, and he came back from the dead in like 2008, I think, and he was basically, he came back with a new origin that the Reverse Flash, his enemy, who Phil thinks his name is the stupidest name in the world.
Come on.
He's like Flash, but in reverse.
Except he's the same.
Oh, yeah. So Reverse Flash, it's revealed in the new retcon of his origin that Reverse Flash went back in time and killed Barry's mom, and that's what motivated him to become a superhero. So during the couple years between Barry coming back and Flashpoint, it was basically Barry learning to cope with the fact that his mom died because of him when he was a kid, and it was, it was one of his enemies that he made as an adult that caused his mom to be killed. So that's pretty much where it leaves off, his series. It wasn't very long. And that shifts us up to Flashpoint. And that series was written by Geoff Johns, who's writing Flashpoint. So a lot of people looked at this when it was announced as a continuation of what he had been doing with The Flash. And that's not quite what we got. So anything else to add, Sly, before we jump into this book?
Well, do you think there's a target audience for this book?
People who like alternate universe stories, maybe?
Yeah, and if you like time travel, even if it's bad...
Time travel at any cost. I'll read a terrible story just to do time travel.
Yeah, then you'd like this, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you can't argue that.
If you like garbage, this book is just for you. Okay, so it starts with a quick recap of that thing I just said about how Barry's like a little kid and his mom got killed, and it like quickly recaps his origin, that he was hit by lightning and chemicals splashed all over him, and now he can run really fast. Now there's someone narrating this saying that like he was sad about his mom, but then as soon as he became the Flash, he left all those ghosts behind. He found love, he found a family, and for the first time ever, he found friends. And it's a big montage of the Justice League. So you're telling me that the Flash had no friends until he was like 30? That's horrible.
Yeah, and he's a grown-ass man. And I mean he's a grown ass man, not a grown ass man. Like he likes asses.
The Flash is nothing if not an ass man.
I mean, look at Iris.
Yeah, so Barry wakes up and he seems very, very confused, and he goes to run away and he falls down the stairs. Then what happens?
But why is he confused though?
Because his like buddy Forrest or whatever his name is like mentioning, much like this book, is bringing up these characters that we've never heard of and we don't care about, and Barry's like, wait, what? Who's that? What? And then they're quickly forgotten and moved on past.
Yeah, I had no idea. Who's a Pied Piper, Citizen Cold, or Captain Cold? And then he just falls down the stairs. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he sits up, and who does he see? His mom.
What?
And he says, what? Mom? And she's like, it's my birthday, remember? You promised you'd take me to dinner. And so I guess we're in a different world now, because Mom's supposed to be dead, but Mom is not dead.
A whole new
Barry's
world.
strolling with his mom.
Barry goes to see his wife, and she's with someone else. And then he's like, tell me, Mom, what about Superman? And she's like, who's that?
And he's like, Mom, I have something to tell you. I'm the Flash. And she's like, who the fuck is the Flash?
But she knows who Batman is.
She knows who Batman is. So
Batman
this is a
is.
world where the superheroes we know don't exist, but Batman does, because Batman's in everything, because he's too popular not to be.
And then we cut to Batman.
Yeah. And he basically looks like regular Batman.
Yeah.
Except his red eyes.
His eyes are red. Yeah.
His red eyes.
What's Batman doing?
He's trying to kill someone.
It's basically
Yeah.
a Flashpoint version of Harley Quinn. So it's alternate reality version of Harley Quinn. She has a weird
Hey, Sly, does this character matter at all? Does this character show up at all ever again?
No.
Because he's like, where's the Joker? Where is he?
Where are they?
Oh, he won't kill me.
Do they talk about the Joker in the book, or is that just in the movie?
No, there's the only okay, we should get to this now because we keep glossing over it, and I might as well bring it up now. So this book,
Okay.
like most comic events, and this is why I hate most comic events, assumes you'll read all the fucking tie-ins to get the full story. And
Yeah.
most of the stuff they bring up does not show up in this book at all. It only happens in tie-ins. So if you read the Batman tie-ins, you'll know that in this universe, there's a different Joker. And you'll know Citizen Cold is actually a Flash villain who's a good guy in this universe and all this other stuff. But like if you read just the Flashpoint story, you have no idea what the fuck is going on.
I had no idea what was happening in most of this story, I'll be honest.
I know
They
most of
just
these characters, and I had barely any idea what was going on in most of the story.
They just
Yeah,
mention
same.
people, they don't matter, and then that seems to be the big problem of the story is nothing matters.
Yeah. Anyone can see. Nothing really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about this a little bit back in Civil War. Like, oh, tie-ins, it's good that Captain Marvel is only brought up, like, casually and not, like, with too much detail. And you could read the actual tie-in to understand the full story. And we were arguing that a little bit, but I think looking back on it, Ryan was right. Civil War did it best, where you just bring it up in the background, you have the characters show up and not be mentioned at all, and you get to read that tie-in to understand what's going on. Rather than this book, which says go read this other book, repeatedly every single issue, basically.
Yeah, and it's really annoying because like they keep introducing all these characters that just don't matter at all. Yeah. So anyway, Batman tries to kill Harley Quinn, and Cyborg stops him. You know, Cyborg from Teen Titans. He's a guy with robot parts. And then, so Cyborg is. This part is so weird to me. They're standing on a rooftop, and it's Cyborg and Batman, and Cyborg's trying to convince Batman to join his Justice League, or whatever they're called. What are they called? Like the Super Society or something?
I don't know.
Whatever. And then he like turns on a spotlight, and there's this whole long, giant bunch of characters standing behind them. Did they not notice them?
No, they had their hologram.
It's a hologram, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that at all.
He like turns on the characters for cinematic effect, you know.
I like to imagine they're doing the Batman thing to him, where he sneaks up on him.
And this,
I didn't know they were holograms at all.
Yeah, that's why one of them is like, why are you pointing a gun at me? It doesn't matter. We're not really here.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was having an existential crisis.
I mean, nothing really matters anyway.
Well, everyone is really depressed though, because in this world, Aquaman and Wonder Woman hate each other and invaded Europe and a bunch of other places. And everyone thinks the world's going to end soon.
So Wonder Woman and her Amazon army and Aquaman and his Atlantis army are at war.
Yeah, I think it's more than they hate each other. They sank Western Europe into the ocean. I think they mentioned that like 150 million people are dead as a result of this war so far, which is by far the highest casualties of any war ever. Because Atlantis sinks Europe, and then the Amazons take over England. Something like that.
They go into a lot of the geography here, and like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the theme of the book is nothing really matters.
Yeah. So out of this whole giant list of characters, do any of these superheroes actually matter to the plot?
No. In fact, a lot of them are dead before the final issue even occurs. They die out of the comic.
So I think the only one that really matters is Shazam, who normally we mentioned him on a different episode. I don't remember which one.
Cry for Justice.
Yeah. So he is a little boy who says Shazam and turns into a big boy.
Little boy turns big boy.
In this universe, he's 5 little boys.
And 2 little girls.
Yeah. It's 3... I don't know. A bunch of little boys and a bunch of little girls say Shazam like Captain Planet and turn into a big boy.
Things even call like Captain Thunder in this universe too.
Yeah, they call him Captain Thunder. And they're trying to convince Batman to join their stupid Justice League thing to stop the war.
And Batman's like, no, it's stupid. Just like us.
Yeah, Batman's like, this is stupid, fuck off.
And then everyone's like, I guess we're not going to... Because Batman was needed to keep the universe relevant, we're going to cancel this franchise.
Yeah, and okay, the thing that's so weird about this, all these people have like crazy superpowers. Batman's just like an old dude.
Yeah.
Why do they need him so bad?
And
they cancel everything just because Batman doesn't join.
And like,
yeah, they won't join.
He
doesn't join.
They were all ready to go too until Batman says no, and then they're like, "Oh wait, sorry." Immediately, they all just say, "Yeah, suicide." Sorry.
So then, Barry, totally unrelated to this, says, "I gotta go find the one person who could figure out what the hell's going on," and he goes to find Batman.
That's kind of related.
And, like,
he's going to find Batman.
No, I mean like I mean independent of this event.
Oh, okay.
Barry doesn't know this is happening.
Well, no one knows.
Yeah,
This is like a secret superhero meeting.
Yeah, on top of a big roof in the middle of the city with like all these hologram dudes. But anyway, so Barry goes to Wayne Manor where Batman lives, and it's all like dilapidated. There's no Alfred. There's just garbage everywhere. And he goes down into the Batcave, and he basically is saying, like, Batman attacks him, and he's like, Bruce, wait. And he's like, Bruce is dead.
Ooh,
and then
we missed an important point. Flash doesn't have his powers, so Batman actually is beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
That's why he fell down the stairs, because he doesn't know how to like when
walk
he runs, it changes how he goes downstairs.
I guess.
But is it Bruce Wayne that Flash talking to?
No. So here's the big reveal. The final page of issue 1 is it's Batman with his fist clenched about to punch Barry in the face, and he goes, "You're not Bruce Wayne, you're Thomas Wayne." Dun dun dun. Which is Bruce's dad.
The guy who says Martha.
He has the mask on. And Barry's never met Bruce's dad. How does he know that he's Thomas Wayne?
Because
I think context clues.
Yeah,
he says, "I watched him die." This is a crazy alternate universe where nothing is the same. How does that matter?
It's because the picture of the family is there, like Batman's was, and there's the gun that shot someone. So it's like you're still obsessed with the family being shot, but if Bruce is dead, you couldn't be Martha Wayne.
I would think it's Alfred, personally.
But yeah, and I mentioned that the Joker is someone else in this universe. In this universe, the Joker is Martha Wayne. She goes crazy after Bruce dies.
What?
I actually think that concept is awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, that's pretty crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They mention that briefly in the movie adaptation. I assume it's probably in the Batman tie-ins.
It is
but
in
I
Batman
don't know.
tie-ins. It is. I actually wouldn't read it. It's by Brian Azzarello, who's a pretty good writer.
Yeah.
I like how Thomas Wayne Batman, he's like, I need to have red glowing eyes with my costume because that'll show the type of person I am.
Oh yeah, but
yeah, he's a sleepy person, or he's stoned.
But yeah, this Batman, by the way, when he tried to murder Harley Quinn, it's supposed to show that this Batman is more harsh and evil than our Batman. Like he doesn't give a shit about the rules or law or anything.
Yeah, it's fucking every alternate universe DC story ever written.
Yeah.
Look how edgy Batman is.
And that ends issue 1. How does issue 2 open up with?
Issue 2 is Aquaman fucking killing a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, and Wonder Woman later on because much of this too. So they're both dicks.
So many
look,
dudes.
This is a universe where everyone is so edgy.
Yeah. And none of these characters, I have no idea who these people are. He's like, Electric Eel, stop. And he's like, no, shut up, Deathstroke. And it's like, oh no, it's Warlord. And everyone just dies immediately. So I don't know.
Who's Electric Eel? I've read a lot of DC comics. Who the fuck is Electric Eel?
Good question. We're going to need Icicle up here if Plasmus is here. Like, who are these people? I thought they were making up names.
That'd be funny if they were just fucking making up names and Geoff Johns like, no one will fucking tell the difference.
That's the thing is, some of these characters are different versions of existing characters. So, like, instead of Metamorpho, it's Element Woman. And I know Element Woman exists, but, you know, they're all, like, they're supposed to be alternate versions. But there's also made-up characters. So, like, I don't know. I don't know. But nobody matters.
No, and like
nobody but Grifter.
Ocean Master? Who the fuck?
Ocean Master exists.
He's Aquaman's brother.
Oh, okay.
But that doesn't matter. So one thing I'd like to say before we get further into the Flash part of this issue, the cover is Batman flipping a switch on an electric chair and electrocuting the Flash.
Yeah.
And the Flash looks like he's taking a shit.
He really does. And you know, the first issue we cover, we didn't mention this before, but it looks like Flash's clothes are falling off to me.
Oh, they are. They definitely are.
And this one is him taking a shit, so I don't know the theme of this.
Yeah, the theme is Flash is a dirty bird, and he's doing lots of weird stuff. But also, the scene, I'm going to get to it when we get to the scene, but that's not what happens. It's not an electric chair that Batman flips a switch on.
Well, it looks more dramatic, so that gets people to read it.
Yeah, especially because the cliffhanger was he's beating up Barry Allen, so he's probably going to give him the death penalty now.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
For trespassing into the Batcave, you will die.
So, Phil, do you want to talk about the scene when Barry tries to take out his costume and show it to Batman?
Okay, so they're fighting, and he's trying to explain mid being beaten up by Batman. No, I'm from an alternate universe. I'm the Flash. I knew your son. And you know, Thomas Wayne's like, what the hell are you talking about? And
you sound like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, he's like,
you sound like a shitty fucking DC writer.
There's no way this story's plausible, asshole. And then he pulls out his ring, and he's like, "Oh, I can prove what's going on." And then this clown
his ring like falls out of his coat.
Yeah,
and he was looking for that ring in issue 1. Did he really just have it in his pocket and didn't look?
And then he's like, "This will prove who I am." And he presses the ring, and like this clown costume pops out. I'm not sure what it is. I figured out after through context clues that this is the costume of Professor Zoom. The Reverse Flash. Yeah, great name.
Okay, I love Professor Zoom.
Me too.
I know Phil does not. But from a new reader perspective, I totally understand why a big dopey yellow costume from Eobard Thawne from the future is pretty stupid.
Not to mention, when you have like a big latex costume like that that's no one's inside, it just looks like a big deflated clown costume. Like
it does.
Its really arms are just like, it's like a wavy inflatable arm man.
And it's like it's like right before you beat Mr. Patch in Banjo-Tooie. That's what he looks like, right, guys?
Right.
Exactly. But this is something that annoys me because this is like the worst way ever to introduce your main villain. Like, you just find his costume.
Spoilers, he's not even the main villain.
You mean the worst way is just by saying, let me tell you about him. He's a scientist from the 25th century.
Yeah, like it's just like, They just find, like, imagine like Star Wars. They find Darth Vader's closet and they find his costume there, and then they say, "Let me talk about Darth Vader. Darth Vader's this big evil guy with Jedi powers, and he can force choke you." And then you never see Darth Vader again until the final act. That'd be a great villain, right?
Great villain.
No, that'd be bad.
Yeah.
And
I really like that Batman goes, "The Reverse Flash, why would his uniform be inside your ring? And how the hell does it even fit in there?" And Barry's just like, "It's in there because he put it there."
yeah, and
That doesn't explain.
he's so paranoid too because he's like, he's watching us right now. He's moving so fast, he's invisible. I don't know what's going on. And
Also, I really like this line where he's like, "Until I became the Flash and I discovered my entire life had been targeted by an enemy I hadn't even made yet. It was revenge in reverse." What?
I think that's just revenge. The same way that Reverse Flash is just like another Flash. Reverse Flash would be just slow man.
The Turtle, another Flash villain. I like to think. Shit, I don't remember what joke I was about to make.
It probably was shitty.
Oh well,
It probably
it
was
was probably
shitty.
dumb.
Yeah.
All right,
well.
so what do they want to do now?
Oh, I was gonna say revenge is a dish best served in reverse, which is a shitty joke. You guys are
Yeah,
right.
you should just not say that.
You should not say anything.
I already did.
You should just end this.
Well, we're gonna have to go back in time now and punch Ryan in the face before he says that joke. But then,
Yeah.
So basically, so at this point, we'll pretend I didn't say that. Barry basically says, like, in my world, Bruce was still alive and you were killed. So if you help me stop the Reverse Flash,
I can
we
kill
can
you.
undo this. I could kill you, and Batman and your son could live. So that's what convinces him, like, okay, I'll help you set things right.
I want to die. Basically.
I want to die.
But also,
Basically.
just to point out that Barry's memories are like shifting to a new timeline. So now he remembers, oh yeah, Wonder Woman's an asshole, and so is Aquaman, and they're trying to destroy the world. So there's like a ticking time bomb of if Flash stays in this world, new timeline too long, he'll forget all the memories of his own timeline, and then
he'll forget he
never
has
be able
to do
revert
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could just like write yourself like a Google Doc or something, but whatever.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Um,
Just take notes. Well, I guess he doesn't have his powers right now, but whatever.
But so what is Barry's plan to solve everything?
Oh, this is so good.
the best plan I've ever heard. Who wants to say it? It's too good.
Okay, so Barry wants to recreate his experiment, but what he does is he sets up all these dangerous chemicals around a chair with a lightning rod on it, and it's now storming out because, of course.
It's convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he has all these chemicals set up, and he basically makes lightning hit the chair, so all these chemicals explode all over him.
It's just
And
such
then-
an amazingly stupid plot. Like, it's amazingly stupid that could happen once, but it's like that's superhero origin stories, right? But to say if I
Yeah.
electrocute myself with a bunch of dangerous chemicals again, it's going to make me the Flash again it's just amazing.
So does it work?
No. Well, I mean, the issue ends with him being burnt, scarred, laying there in Batman's arms. Like you kind of expect for someone who just got struck by lightning and had dangerous chemicals sprayed on them.
Yeah, and he just looks like fucked up. Like, obviously he's not a superhero, he's just like a dead guy.
Yeah. But they have a map of the Flashpoint world. And me and Ryan take this for granted because we know the regular universe. But Phil had a very unique perspective on it that we didn't even consider.
Yeah.
Who controls Africa, Phil?
I noticed this map at the end where they show what's the Flashpoint world like. And the first thing I noticed is just Africa says Africa, gorilla controlled.
And Phil was like, isn't that kind of racist? And we're like, oh, there's a gorilla city, Phil.
Oh, see.
Yeah, Africa has a gorilla city. It's a city run by super smart gorillas. But yeah, I'd say out of context to a new reader, that's pretty racist.
Yeah, it's pretty jarring. Just like gorilla controlled Africa. I don't know what the deal with that is, but
And who controls Brazil?
the Nazis occupy Brazil somehow.
Yeah, why are there Nazis in this world?
Yeah, especially since the point at which history changes isn't related to Nazis at all.
Not even that, but wouldn't you think if Wonder Woman and Aquaman had these giant superhero armies that were like destroying the world, how did the Nazis take power?
Yeah, especially because Europe is underwater.
Well, they snuck
Yeah.
in while everyone was focusing on Wonder Woman and Aquaman. They were like, that's...
They snuck into Brazil?
Or they
Yeah.
snuck into the ocean. I don't get it. And just everything. Like when you look at this map, it's a cluster of garbage nonsense to me as a new reader. Like it's like, oh, this place controlled by the mysterious 12. This
well, to be
place
fair, this whole comic is a cluster of nonsense bullshit.
Japan is tornado protected. Like, what does this mean? Oh,
Wait.
yeah.
Tornadoes like tornadoes?
I can't tell. It might be a superhero, and also Alaska.
Oh, red tornado, maybe?
Alaska, land of the undead.
What?
Okay, cool. I guess if you were buying this monthly and you like went to the comic shop and bought it and saw this map and then also saw tie-ins next to it about like the Attack of the Killer Tornadoes or whatever, then like I guess it would be like more incentivizing you to buy tie-ins.
But I think more people would be like, that sounds stupid. I'm not reading that.
These are people that are reading Flashpoint.
We are people.
They're
We
already
read
probably
Flashpoint.
pretty
What do you think about
stupid.
us, Ryan?
I'm saying we're stupid.
You're
Shit,
right.
they figured it out.
Issue 3 on the cover is you see the back of someone that looks kind of like Superman's head, and the camera's right behind him, so you only see the top of his head, and then you see Barry, Batman, and Cyborg looking like, oh my god, what is that? And I'd like to think that he's naked, Superman,
Yeah,
and they're looking at him like, oh god, what?
he probably is.
So after Barry gets electrocuted by chemicals, what did he try to do after that?
The only thing any smart person does when being electrocuted and spraying chemicals on yourself didn't work. You spray chemicals on yourself and electrocute yourself again.
But this time it works. So
This
convenient.
time it works.
Yeah. Oh, this is also the line when Batman goes, you really are crazy, and he goes, yeah, like a fox.
Yeah, I mean, like, it went from, like, really dumb to, like, the dumbest thing. That
Yeah.
not only do they try something so stupid again, but that the writers are like, but this time being struck by lightning with chemicals makes him the Flash. And just in
Yeah,
time,
and it's-
because Batman's being flung off the roof, and Flash can flash down there and save him and say, haha, told you so.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for Flash Quincy getting his powers at that point, they both would have died right there and there.
Yeah,
Yep.
Good plan.
And
great
yeah,
plan.
and this is when Barry officially convinces him to help, because he runs upstairs and sews his own costume.
Yeah.
Like, but that seems like, why? Okay, this isn't his universe. Nobody knows who the Flash is.
No one knows who he
Nobody
is.
knows
really.
who Barry Allen is. Well, I guess his mom does. Like, people know who Barry Allen is, but why does he have to like keep his identity a secret?
He
Why
wants
does his
it's a
costume
morale
matter?
thing for him. He wants to feel like the Flash again.
I guess
It makes too much sense. You should stop explaining stuff. Though.
How is he alive though? I mean, when you have 30-degree burns over your entire body, you die.
When,
This kills him.
when the
He
Flash is
has
one of Flash's extra powers is when he not only does he move fast, he also heals fast.
But he
Yeah.
he had those burns for a while, talking to Bruce Wayne or Thomas Wayne after, being like, "I gotta try again. I'll be okay."
Cause comics LOL.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I accept that explanation.
So at this point they're doing like some like basically Barry is like, I need some Google delivered exposition on this world stat. And Batman like runs him through the whole universe, and Barry asks about Superman, the rocket that he came from, and basically that rocket crashed into Metropolis and like nuked the city,
Yeah.
Yep.
and the government seized all the like the rocket and all that stuff. So Batman goes to Cyborg and says, I'll help your like stupid Justice League thing as long as we go investigate the Superman thing first.
They break into.
They meet the Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go to not meet him. They go to break him out of a secret facility.
Yeah.
And they see a bunch of messed up experiments done. I guess that's supposed
Like
to be Super Dog.
the skeleton of Crypto the Super Dog.
Okay, when it was a canine skeleton, I'm like, they're making some kind of stupid reference here, but I don't know what it is.
Superman has
Hey,
a dog
hey.
that's a super dog too.
Hey, don't you fucking talk shit about Crypto the Super Dog.
Hey, I'm not talking shit about him. I'm talking shit about the writers of this comic.
Okay. Even though my favorite Crypto stuff is also written by Geoff Johns.
So what happens after they find Superman? What does he look like?
He's like pale and really scrawny. He looks like Captain America before he gets the serum.
And they make a note. They make an obvious thing to say, I don't think he's ever seen the sun. Hint, hint.
This is actually my high point of the book conceptually. I think this concept is really, really cool. of a Superman who didn't have any of his family upbringing, who doesn't have any of his powers because his powers come from the sun, and he's just like this scared, like, you know,
frail little alien,
experimented on alien.
Yeah, but he's only scared for
think,
5 minutes, and then he shoots lasers.
Kind of. What happens? So what happens is they escape from the base and they get surrounded by like the army, and then Superman at this point, like, you know, he starts to fly up in the air, and everyone turns their guns on him and they yell shoot to kill, and he accidentally shoots heat vision. Like, he can't control it because he looks so scared right after he shoots it. And Barry's like, this is the guy that's gonna save us, and then he just like flies away, terrified of what he just did.
Yeah, he's like horrified by murdering all those people.
Yeah,
I don't think
did
he murder anyone? No, he just melted some guy's gun.
He melted some guy's arm. In the movie, he like super murders all these dudes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, Superman flies away, and basically Batman's like, so there goes your fucking savior. Way to go. What are we gonna do now? And there's a bunch of guys with guns trained on.
I love this picture so much. Every army guy is dual wielding pistols at their heads. Like,
Yeah.
It just looks so silly.
And that ends issue 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So issue 4. First of all, the cover is Barry, and he looks dead on the ground, and Wonder Woman and Aquaman are about to stab him, and it just looks like he's like dead or asleep, and they're just like gonna get him.
Yeah.
So issue 4 opens, and it's all the Shazam kids, the little boys and girls that are gonna turn into a big boy. They're watching Obama on TV,
Thank
and I
God.
love the idea that everything about this universe is so fucked up and everything's so different, and you can't imagine how crazy everything is. But with all those changes, we still have the same president.
Yeah.
And that always makes me like ask the question, like, really, you think that this whole impact on the world wouldn't change like American politics at all?
Well, you know, this is a dark future, so you have to show the worst possible outcome, Ryan. And that means President Obama.
He's about to bring in his Muslim terrorist brothers.
Yeah, and this is where he says all superheroes are now part of my death panel.
So, Hal Jordan's about to go fly off to attack.
We don't have to go to Hal Jordan. He is so
All right.
The only reason why I mention this is because in the regular universe, Hal is Barry's best friend. And spoilers, Hal's like, I'm probably going to die on this mission. And he does. And when Barry sees that on TV, it's his like, oh shit, like I really have to save this world. Now that it personally affects me, I actually have stakes in this. Where when watching everyone else die, that's fine. It's fine. I'll take my time.
No, but to be fair, Barry is like, Thomas Wayne is like, oh, you could just let this world die, whatever, fuck them all. And Barry's like, I have to save this world too, basically. Like, he's like, you're right there. It's like, it took Hal to really trigger that for him. But the fact he wants to stay and save this world before he leaves is kind of nice.
Too bad that like storyline thing has no payoff, because he's like, I want to save this world, but never mind, we have to end. But
yeah,
we'll get to that. So they're trying to get away from the army, and I love how Flash says, no need, Cyborg, I can disarm them quicker than, and he just gets shot. Like, okay, super speed, whatever.
Yeah. So Phil talks about this a lot, like, not on the show, where like a lot of superheroes would be like, I need to teleport out of the way of this truck. And then like in the amount of time it would take them to say that, they would get hit by the truck. Or like, oh no, this guy's pointing his gun at me, my spider sense or whatever. And I love that the first comic we have you read is one where they actually go to say that and they're like, nope, fuck you, too slow.
Yeah.
So one of the Justice League characters, Element Woman, shows up and saves them all.
She doesn't matter.
She doesn't matter, but like,
wait,
she's
there are
apparently
there are characters in the story that don't matter? Could it be?
And she shows up, and I guess she's more powerful than the fucking Flash, because her leg can turn into a tree.
Yeah, and she makes gas
Cool.
out of, I guess, her butt. I don't know.
And this is when they bring them to meet the Shazam kids. And while they're on their way, they're like, we don't want to save the world. Fuck the world. Bunch of assholes. And what convinces them, Phil?
Pizza night.
They're like, if the world was gone, there'd be no pizza.
And the kid who says this is the kid who apparently, according to earlier in the comic, has the wisdom of Solomon.
So he's so smart, and he goes, no more pizza, no more anything.
Oh, man.
So at this point, Batman like kicks in their door. I said that as a joke. He does. He fucking destroys their house.
Yeah, he does.
He kicks in the door and throws an unconscious Barry onto the couch and takes his mask off. And he's like, "See? This is why he had a costume. Now everyone look at him." And this is when Hal dies on TV, and Barry's like, "This is it. We gotta do something." And he runs out of the room, and I thought he was running to like go do something. He just runs into the kitchen.
He wants pizza. The world's not gonna end without a pizza party.
Yeah, that's true. And this is when everyone decides that like the Justice League's gonna get together and we're gonna go fight everybody.
The Justice League of these random strangers who is just like, I have no idea who any of these people are.
Yeah. And then so they're on their way to some island with the Justice League, and this is the island where it's like the big final fight between Aquaman and
yeah, it's important to note that this place that they're going, Aquaman's bringing his army here to kill Wonder Woman. The U.S. Army is coming here, and the Justice League are all coming to this new. It's like what England used to be.
Yeah.
New Themyscira, which is Wonder Woman's island.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. So this is when Aquaman and Wonder Woman are like, "I can't believe I ever loved you. You killed my wife." I'm like, why do they add this romance plot in?
I don't know.
You have to give some reason for them to fight each other, because
Like, they're both dictators. Isn't enough?
It's incredible. I mean, it's as much as we like to think about, like, you know, wars have been started over love. It's like not really. Like most of the wars you think about like that, like Helen of Troy, they're like they're like legends. People don't go to war over like, you broke up with me, I'm gonna sink Western Europe and kill everyone.
Yeah. So, Enchantress, the character we just met, decides to turncoat and double agent and separates Big Boy into lots of little boys and girls. And then Billy gets stabbed from behind and he super explodes.
They murder this fucking kid on panels.
The pizza boy.
Is he the one who was normally Shazam in the other comics?
Yeah,
no?
he's
yes.
He has to share Big Boy now in the story.
Okay, I actually wanted to bring this up because he gets stabbed through the back from behind, and I love Geoff Johns. He's one of my favorite writers. He might be my favorite comic writer. Every single fucking event he writes has at least one person, in this book it's two, get stabbed from behind off, like they come from off camera and stab him from behind every time. And I don't know why.
They have no peripheral vision in the story, by the way. Like,
well, he just got separated out of Captain Thunder.
Well, he has an excuse. The next character has no excuse. Next character gets stabbed in the back.
Yeah. Oh, super no excuse. So then after he explodes, everyone's like knocked out except for the Flash, and look who's here. The Reverse Flash. Professor Zoom.
He has a great line.
End of issue 4.
Oh, Barry, look what you did. And behind him is thousands of dead people.
Yeah. This is part 4 of 5. The finale of part 4 of 5. This is our first introduction to our main villain.
He's not even the main villain.
I know, but he's the only actual...
It's hyped as if he is.
The antagonist. Yeah. The antagonist of the story. I
still stand by he's not. He doesn't actually matter in the story at all.
Okay, you're right. You're actually right about that. So,
but no one matters.
The guy who's hyped to be the main antagonist.
But it's who Barry's been chasing, yes.
The guy that Barry's built up to fight shows up for the first time for new readers in this part of the story. Right near the finale.
Yeah. Yeah. And now... Issue 5. The cover is Barry with a very detailed butt.
Of course, it's a speedster butt.
And Batman's head's in the way, so I assume him and Reverse Flash are docking?
Oh, definitely. Just look at that face that he has on.
So this is issue 5, the final issue of the pre-reboot DC universe.
And it starts with a joke. It's taking you longer to get up to speed than I would have guessed.
A little one for myself there.
It's pretty funny since everyone's being murdered around me.
He's a dick. That's what he does.
Yeah.
So what's actually the truth about this world? Did the Reverse Flash really cause all this time travel shenanigans?
No. So what actually happened, but Barry goes back in time and saves his mom, and that's what causes this whole world.
So Barry's mom being alive causes Batman to beat Thomas Wayne, to have Bruce die instead. It causes Wonder Woman and Aquaman to start a world war.
It causes Nazis to take over Brazil.
It causes a rocket in space to change course and hit a city.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what Reverse Flash tries to explain very poorly is you broke time. You're like a bullet through a windshield that shattered history. So even though you only changed one thing, it reverberated through. But it's stupid. It's a stupid thing.
Here's one thing I hate about I hate about Flash in general. The implication in every single Flash story I've seen is that when Flash changes the timeline, a good guy, when the hero changes the timeline, it's unacceptable. The timeline will be like, fuck you, I will fuck up everything to change this. But when Reverse Flash routinely changes the timeline, he murdered Barry's mom. He's fucking up the timeline just by being in the past.
He mentioned that in issue 1, that because he's the Reverse Flash, he gets his powers from the Reverse Speed Force,
love that.
which doesn't follow the same rules. So his Reverse Speed Force it lets him break time without having consequences.
So in this fucking the fairness of this fucking universe is that this guy could just go back and fucking kill like Obama before he's born, and Barry's just like, I guess that's gonna happen. I gotta let that happen.
Yeah,
I fucking hate that.
I don't know to the extent how much time travel happens in comics. I haven't seen that many that are actually time travel stories, but it seems really crazy to me that you could do it in such a way like this where you go and like it just has such far-reaching effects, and then this guy knows, like, he knew what was happening this whole time just so he could show up dramatically and be like, hey, fuck you did this. Like, how is he outside of time, like, aware of this?
Yes.
They needed someone to explain the plot, because otherwise Barry will never find out.
So I just want to go into a little bit of detail on how time travel had worked in the Flash universe before. Basically, Barry and Reverse Flash were characters in the 60s and 70s where they were all one-and-done stories where they would, like, go back in time and, like, fight dinosaurs. Like, it wasn't these long-reaching, like, you've messed with the timeline. It was just very, like, goofy sci-fi time travel, like Doctor Who kind of time travel. And then, after Barry died, time travel stopped being a part of the Flash thing unless it was part of, like, a set timeline that was always the case. So, like, if they did a time travel, they would make it work where, like, that's what always happens. Like how the time turner works in Harry Potter. Like, you can only travel in time if that's what you already did. You know what I mean?
But
that explains why I hate this time travel so much, because that's the type of time travel I actually love, where you have to go back in time and do what you already did.
Yeah, so that's the way it was for a long time. And then when Barry came back from the dead, because he hadn't been a character since, like, things were really goofy, a lot of writers, Geoff Johns especially, had a hard time rectifying the goofy side of him with the more modern, nuanced Flash universe that had come to build in the 20 years Barry was dead. So they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, and have, like, these weird concepts, but played off seriously, and it just fails miserably, in my opinion.
I just don't get, how does it not create, like, a time paradox or something?
Well, that's why this story sucks.
Yeah.
So then they try and explain like more time physics by being like, oh, just so you know, I always needed you. This is what Reverse Flash is saying to Flash, because if you didn't exist, the Speed Force wouldn't be accessible in my time, the 25th century. But I was running through the time stream when you went back and ran through the time stream and punched or didn't punch your mom, and because of that, I'm a paradox now, and I can't be killed, or.
Yeah, and this is the kind of thing that, like, villain monologuing with really convoluted, like, plot armor kind of stuff works when they're goofy stories in the 60s about, like, Magneto changing the, like, magnetic poles to make, like, people telepathic or whatever. Or, like, one time Barry ran so fast that he ran past a criminal and he could control things with his mind because of how fast it was. And, like, it's a stupid thing, but it's wrapped up in 8 pages or, like, 20 pages. And, like, you can deal with it because it's a goofy thing. When you try to play it straight, it's really weird. Either play it, like, have a serious story or don't. It doesn't work when you try to combine them.
Yeah, it's really, it's nonsensical near the end. And I also don't understand how speedsters work exactly. Like, if they can go so fast they can run back in time, right? Is their perception not up to that speed?
Yes, they can see that. They can. Their senses are that fast.
Okay, but then how do they just constantly get beaten up? Or, as we're about to see, how do you get stabbed from behind?
That's a good question.
That's a fucking really good question.
The Flash is my favorite character, and this is one of those things that I always have to, like, roll my eyes and be like, yeah, I know. If they can run so fast that they can go back in time and like they have such molecular control that they could phase through walls and stuff. How do they ever get beaten by anybody ever?
Especially guys with like cold guns and fucking trickster gear.
Well, okay, I could tell you why Captain Cold's the greatest and could beat the Flash.
All right, how about the Trickster? Trickster is literally a clown that beats the Flash.
How about
Yeah.
How about an old guy with a sword?
Which is what happens.
Which is what happens as Reverse Flash is standing there laughing at Barry Allen, being like, "I could kill you in your mother's womb this second. You can't hurt me," and he just gets stabbed.
Yeah. By Batman.
Yeah, from behind, because it's Geoff Johns.
So Batman can walk all the way up to him and stab him without Flash noticing him. Reverse Flash noticing him.
That's the craziest thing. It's like if you can kill him in his mother's womb, like you didn't have like 3 seconds to notice there's a guy creeping up on you with a giant sword.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing DC struggles with a lot, is their characters are so overpowered that they kind of have to be like stupid to like tell compelling stories.
But it's more like the way it's handled, though. It's more like the story has to be written to make it convenient for the writers. So the story,
Right?
Yeah,
That's what it
and
feels
like you can tell great Flash stories where he's super overpowered, and like the stuff in the '90s does that really, really well. Geoff Johns' Flash run does that really well with Wally West, but it's lazy, and that's one thing that we felt a lot about the TV show. That season 2, especially, they just start making it like, oh no, he's just an idiot.
Yeah.
That's why. And like to make this goofy villain who's like not strong at all beat the Flash, you have to kind of like, you don't have to, but a lot of writers rely too much on like such a suspension of disbelief that you're like, oh, okay, I guess they can beat him.
Yeah.
That's stupid though.
Yeah, for me,
but like
that kind of stuff when it feels like the writer's willing to cheat like that, just because they're lazy or / incompetent and they need to progress the plot in the way they want. They can't figure out how, so they just cheat. It takes me out of it. I mean, with this comic, I was never in it, but like
we talked a lot about that in the Superman Grounded episode and the Bronze Age Superman episode, that Superman gets this more than anybody, where Superman's someone that it's really hard to write compelling because like, why doesn't he just stop it?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he just beat them? And like, that's why the best Superman stories stand out to me, because like you have to be clever to tell a story with someone as powerful as Superman or the Flash. And like usually Geoff Johns is. Now at this point he is not.
We'll get into my theory as we get to the end. But for now,
okay.
For now, there's a joke. Doctor's advice: when you're in the middle of a war, don't stand still.
Yeah, Batman's a real Joker in this.
My son is dead.
That's his wife. That's his wife is the actual Joker.
Yeah. So now it's lots and lots of battle porn.
So much
people
battle
fighting,
porn.
people fighting, people fighting.
There's an alien man.
Yeah.
What is that thing? That it's like the Resistance is here, and then this like tongue alien man jumps out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that is.
Whatever.
He's like this weird. He looks like Zorak from Space Ghost.
Yeah, it's just all this nonsense. It's like you said, battle porn. It's just all these superheroes like just beating each other up and murdering each other for no reason.
So then, let's see. So Reverse Flash is dead. Superman comes back, and Barry's like, "I knew it," and he saves the day.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
That's the thing. Is like again with this story, the biggest flaw is like they pretend like there's gonna be payoff, and this whole time you've been like, Superman's gonna come back. Barry keeps saying Superman's gonna come back, and then Superman comes back, and it doesn't matter. He just starts fighting. He just joins the battle porn and just that's it.
And the world starts ending anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then Batman's dying. He gives Barry a letter for his son, and he says, "I'm sorry about your mom." And Barry runs to his mom's house, because that's what you do in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Mom."
He like teleports there.
It's because he says he was thinking about her, so he teleports there.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yes, that's how it works, apparently. I don't know. You guys are the comic experts.
So imagine if you were Barry's mom and he just shows up in this bizarre costume, bloody and all like scarred and cut up, and he's just like, "Mom, this is all my fault."
Yeah.
Like, what the?
But
She's
what
okay
was
with it.
she
She's very calm and neutral about it. Like, "Oh, I understand, son. Tell me more."
Yeah, she really
so-
is fine with it.
So this world is about to be like destroyed, and he stops and meets with his mom and recaps the entire plot. They don't show it, thank God, but like she's giving him advice that like she has to know his whole universe. Like she has to know his whole history about like how he went back in time and saved her and like all these things, and how he's the Flash, and like she basically says like, you have to go back and kill me because I won't have all these
Kill
people's
me.
deaths be my fault. Yeah.
No, she really does, like, very calmly. He's just like, all right, Barry, son, you just kill me.
Come back in time, punch me in the face.
But this feels like a very cheap and lazy way to try to make the story feel like A, it has some kind of meaning to it, and B, some kind of like emotional, touching scene, poignant, touching scene between Barry and his mom. Like if she was just saying,
And it doesn't.
If she was just saying like generic stuff like, "Oh Barry, you're a great hero, I love you," it would be very meaningless because we fucking had a million stories like that. But like that would make more sense than her telling all the stuff that she would really not think to say realistically.
And she figures out what to do because he's like, I can't do it without the cosmic treadmill, which you guys have mentioned to me, but I didn't realize like it's literally a treadmill.
It's a cosmic treadmill. It's literally a treadmill.
Yeah. And she figures out, but you were thinking about me and you teleported to me. Think about yourself on the cosmic treadmill and you'll teleport to yourself on the cosmic treadmill.
So then it shows him running on the cosmic treadmill, and he sees himself about to stop his mom from dying, and he tackles himself off the treadmill. And because of that, we get this big 2-page spread of all these different universes colliding. Do you want to give a little bit of backstory on that slide?
So all these universes are all DC's different imprints. They have Vertigo, which is like a dark, gritty imprint. They have Wildstorm, which was like their 90s edgy imprint. And basically, when they did their Flashpoint and a New 52, they basically merged all the timelines together to make it simple. And most of the time, in most cases, it made all the stories worse, or it didn't affect them at all.
Yeah. So it basically is showing, like, totally shoehorned out of nowhere, hey, this is the new reboot.
Yeah, and they explicitly are like, he says, I see 3 timelines. And then the voice of the writer is here. It's like, history needed this to happen.
The editors told us to make this happen.
Warner Brothers told us we weren't selling enough comic books.
Yeah. And he's like, the timelines must become one. Go have many issues and we will meet you again.
So now he wakes up in the same scene from issue 1 where Forrest, his buddy's there. And he's like, Barry, you're in your regular universe. Don't worry. Everything's normal. And Flash runs to Batman and he's like, it's Bruce, right? And Bruce is like, yeah, duh. Why wouldn't it be, idiot? What's going on? And then it's quick cut to Barry having already summed up the story for the second time in this issue.
Yep.
And everyone's costume is like super 90s now. They have all these extra lines on them. Flash has a chin guard. And then Barry basically says like, well, I got this special gift because in the Flashpoint world, my memories were erasing themselves. But now I remember my whole life with my mom and my regular life. Which sounds like it would lead to some problems.
Yeah.
Some like
remembering
trauma.
2 full. Yeah, like I feel like it would be so hard to like keep those 2 lives separate in my head. But I'm not the Flash.
Don't
so
worry,
whatever.
they explain it scientifically. I mean, it's just the residue of the chronal residue in his bloodstream. So, you know.
What the fuck?
Oh, that must be it. And Batman says, or it could be a gift to make it all a little easier. What? What easier? What? I hope he only retains the memories of like his wife having that new husband.
Yeah.
And like
Batman being evil, fucking Superman being a skeleton.
I saw you murder people.
Yeah. And this is when Barry gives the letter to Bruce from his dad, and he's like, what is this? And he reads it, and it says, love always, your father, Thomas, and Bruce is crying, and he's like, you're one hell of a messenger. Thanks, Barry. He goes, you're welcome, Bruce. And it ends.
The end.
Now,
as someone who didn't really realize how much they were rebooting into like 3 timelines and stuff, it was kind of confusing to me that he's running through 3 timelines, but then he shows up and he's like, oh, everything's normal.
Everything's fine, I think. He's not even sure.
Yeah, and he's an investigator.
The fact that he actually, at this point in DC's history, erased a lot of his supporting cast and, like, his nephew and, like, a lot of his friends, like, that's pretty horrible. And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's fine. I remember that whole world, but I'm not going to think about, like, my family or anything.
Oh, man.
So, the recap page. Is this a terrible book? Is it a so bad it's good? Or is it a great book?
I think it's terrible.
Phil?
Oh, never mind.
I think it's like if I just rambled on and made up garbage for 20 minutes and then told you the story, like, it might have been interesting at points because it's like, wow, I didn't expect that, I guess. But if it has no point, it has nothing tying it together. The only point is, LOL, sell more comics. It kind of felt to me like by the end I was like, so that is that, I guess. I didn't hate it, but it just felt useless. It felt really useless. Tell me why you hate it, Fly.
It just I have harsh feelings for it because it erased the universe that I loved, but also I hate it because this is like everything I hate in comics, where it's so inaccessible. It relies on tie-ins, so you have to buy all these other books to make sense of this. You have to know all these characters to make sense of this. It is like when people say like comics, I can never get into them. Like it's too hard to figure out where to start. This is a book that says, "Yeah, you're right, people. This is what comics are."
Yeah,
but yeah, that's why I hate it. How about you, Ryan?
When I first read it, I hated it for like the stuff you were saying, like because it rebooted my favorite universe and all that stuff. But I remember thinking like, it's fine as like an alternate universe, like how different things are story. But as a reboot story, it was terrible. Rereading it, there's not a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
I think some of the concepts are cool. Like I think the idea of having two superpowered armies like kind of conquer the world and having regular world politics don't matter when you have two armies with superpowers. That could be interesting. The Superman thing, like I said, is my high point of the book. I think that's really interesting. But like narratively, it's not good. It's pretty shitty.
I think the high point for me was just the first issue when Batman is like, I'm Thomas Wayne. And I was like, oh, that's actually an interesting concept, that it's like, this is why he's such a more brutal Batman, because a kid seeing his parents die might grow up with certain ideals, but like a father watching his son die might be a lot more jaded.
Yeah.
And I think that, and like you said, I didn't know Joker was, Martha Wayne, but it's a cool idea, I think.
Yeah.
I actually, my opinion, like if we're talking about high points, my high point is Thomas Wayne in general, because he's one of the few characters that actually feels like he has an emotional weight or any kind of interesting elements to him. Like he's the only one that feels like an actual character. Like I understand all of his motivations in the story.
Yes. He is the only character in the entire story who moves the plot, and his motivations for doing so are very clear. He keeps saying, if you can go back to the time when Bruce is alive, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's actually the only Flashpoint character that made it into the New 52, because when they launched an Earth 2 book of like an alternate universe, they took his design and they tweaked his motivation a little bit, but like it's very similar, where the Batman of Earth 2 was Thomas Wayne. And like that was one thing that I was like, oh, the one good thing from Flashpoint, I'm really glad you guys kept this around, because that's a really cool idea.
And did the book get canceled immediately after that?
The book didn't get canceled. It got fucking just ruined. But that's we're not talking about that.
Okay.
That's a book I would love to do Earth 2 World's End at some point, because wow, that book was something.
Yeah. We should talk about Geoff Johns a little bit and Andy Kubert. Andy Kubert, the artist, is like a very established artist in general, and his dad has his own art school for comics called the Kubert School for Art.
He was a big 90s X-Men artist.
Yeah.
And I think that shows in this book. It's very polished, and it actually looks really pretty for the most part, but it does have this kind of like edgy, liney 90s feel. As a non-comic fan, how did you feel about that?
I liked it, actually. I guess I should have mentioned that as something I actually liked about the book. It's, how do I say? It looks clean in a good way. Not like too clean where everyone looks stiff. For me, seeing all these characters I didn't know,
it looks sleek.
It looks sleek. That's the word. Yeah. And seeing all these characters I didn't know, it was cool to see some of their designs. I mean, some of them looked really dumb, but some of them were really dumb. But some of them look really interesting. And I think the action stuff was done pretty well too. Besides, like you said, the stereotypical stab from behind. Other than that, I liked the art. And also, that alien-looking guy is the Canterbury Cricket.
Oh, of course. Okay, so I wanted to give a little bit of backstory on Geoff Johns, because Geoff Johns is really like kind of the architect of DC for the last like 20 years, probably 15 years. And the reason why I think it's important is he brought back Green Lantern, the Silver Age Green Lantern, just like the Silver Age Barry. And it was controversial at first because people didn't really want him to come back from the dead. And he built a really, really great story with it. And it culminated in a big event called Blackest Night that justified why he brought the character back. That, like, you needed this character to tell this great story you wanted to tell. So when Flashpoint was announced, I was like, oh, he's doing the same thing. He's rebuilding the Flash. You know, I don't really want Barry to come back, but he convinced me with Hal, so let's see what happens with Barry. And I think that if this was allowed to be a DC event without it tying into the reboot, it probably would have been a lot better. And it probably would have been a lot more character-driven, like the stuff that Geoff Johns always does really well. But I think because DC wanted to reboot, personally, I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I think they made Geoff Johns do the whole really convoluted timeline thing to give a reason why it rebooted. And I think that's one of the main reasons why this story is so terrible, because we talked a lot about how, like, you know, there are some cool concepts, the world is pretty neat, but the climax of the story is total garbage. And the whole climax deals with the timeline stuff. And I feel like if it didn't need to have a total shift in timeline, he probably could have gotten a better story out of it. Especially at this point, like, Geoff Johns was, like, top of his game. Well, maybe not top of his game, but he was still pretty
I want
great.
to argue that point because I think this was when Geoff Johns started. Because I think Geoff Johns is a really great writer when he's really invested in telling a story, but I do think when he phones it in, he phones it in. Like, it produces shit like this. And
I think he phoned it in because he wanted to tell a big Flash story like Blackest Night level, but instead he was given 5 issues to reboot a universe. You know, Blackest Night is 9 issues, and he was, you know, and he was writing other titles at the time, and the whole universe shifted around it, where here, every book in DC got put on hiatus, except Flashpoint, and it became just tie-ins that Geoff Johns wasn't writing.
Yeah.
So I think that that's why he phoned it in, because he was like, well, I can't do what I want to do, so here's some bullshit.
And I read one of the tie-ins, and one of my big problems with it is, since Flashpoint was and the period that it existed was so short, it's hard to get invested in literally 3 issues of a book. Especially the one I read was Secret 7, and it was a team book about 7 members, and the book is so short that, like, one of the members doesn't even join up with the rest of the team, like, because
that's so ridiculous.
And one of the other ones shows up just to die at the end. Like, it has there's not enough time to build a universe within the time span they gave Johns.
Like, how much time did he spend like planning this stuff out? Like, if you
well, that's actually what I was gonna say is, the story that established that the Reverse Flash killed Flash's mom is called Flash Rebirth. And at the end of the hardcover for that book, Geoff Johns has a big afterword where he outlines all of his plans for the Flash franchise. And he had these 2 books that he planned, one with all the Flash family members, like Wally and Kid Flash and, you know, all the old Flash and like the 10 speedsters that exist. And he had actual plans for every character going forward. He brought back another speedster from the dead, and he had this idea to build this whole franchise like he did with Green Lantern, and instead he got 12 issues of the regular Flash book and then immediately Flashpoint. So where Green Lantern he wrote for a decade, Flash he wrote for a year. And that's a big difference. And I think that he actually had big plans, and I think as he geared up to Flashpoint, they said, okay, you're doing a reboot, you have 5 issues, make it happen. Because we talked about this on the Grounded episode too, where JMS took over Superman, and they said, "Oh, we're rebooting, by the way, so wrap this up in another 10 issues or whatever."
That's what happens when we tell writers, like, just wrap up your shit. We're making everything you did just not matter, so wrap it up. Chop chop.
Yeah. So does it feel, as someone who didn't know any of that backstory stuff, Phil, does it feel like a shitty story, or does it feel really rushed?
It's hard to say. It feels like a shitty story, not just like it was rushed. Because, like, if this was a 10-issue thing, I think it would still be dumb as a concept. Like, that you're going to reboot this way.
Well, that's why I don't think he originally knew that what he was leading to was going to be the reboot. I think he just thought it was going to be another Flash story.
And then what happens at the end?
I don't know. Without spoiling anything, I would just point to the first season of the Flash TV show, which deals with a lot of these same themes in a much, much better way. And Geoff Johns is, like, a supervisor, and he writes a lot of the episodes, and, like, he does have his hand in that show. I think that show is closer to what he wanted to do about Flash's mom than this book is, personally. But I don't have anything to back that up.
Speaking of that, let's get to recommendations.
Wait. We haven't been going that long.
How long?
I have a question if you want.
I want a question.
I want it so bad.
Okay. So this actually really, really ties into all the stuff we're talking about. This question comes from Brian via Gmail. If you guys have any questions, write us in, divisiveissues@gmail.com, or tweet at us at divisiveissues, our Facebook page, blah, blah, blah. You guys know all this deal by now. So Brian asks, what is a trope you see far too often in storytelling?
I brought up my trope actually during this episode. I hate the trope. I don't know if this is a trope specifically, and I don't know what it's called, but I hate in comics the idea they have here where Reverse Flash can go back in time and fuck up Barry's mom, and Barry can't even go back and save his mom without fucking the timeline. It stems back to the idea of like Joker can kill a million people and Batman can't kill him back because then he's just as bad as him, and all these other ideas. Basically, the villains can win constantly, while the heroes can never win. And you're supposed to just accept this and basically accept these kind of like hopeless world where the hero can't win, literally. And it pisses me off every time it happens.
We talked about that in the Cry for Justice episode, or the Rise and Fall episode, I guess.
Yeah.
Where, like, if a hero kills one person, even in self-defense, they're just as bad as the villains.
Yeah.
Like, no, they're definitely not. Like, you killed somebody to save somebody's life, and you're just as bad as, like, the Joker who kills 1,000 people? Like, no.
Yeah,
that's not how that works.
I just hate that idea.
Like, that black and white moral, like, there's no gray area whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree.
You got one, Phil?
Yeah, I know we've already kind of talked about this, but, like, I hate when time travel is done this way so much.
Me too.
To me, this ruins the story. It's hard for me to enjoy a story like this, even if the writing is good, even if there's not characters having exposition by staring at a costume. It's like when time travel is handled this way, to me it's so sloppy. And it's not just Flashpoint that does this. This is actually a pretty common thing where they want to come to a certain end, and they have weird time travel magic basically that doesn't make sense. It doesn't have a time loop, and it's like it just creates a lot of paradoxes. And I'm not trying to like nitpick like, well, it doesn't make sense why he didn't go back and whatever, but it doesn't make sense. And like I was saying before, how I get taken out when it's not like when something doesn't fit, it feels like the writer's cheating. This whole book, because of how the time travel's handled, just feels like the writer is just cheating, and it makes me so not invested in the story.
Well, my opinion is that time travel is like magic, where obviously you can't have a scientific, consistent way for like magic to work. But what you do is you set up rules, you set up stakes, and you have to be consistent with the rules you set up. Because if you're not, then it's hard for the audience to get invested, because they're like, anything can happen. Like if the magic is like I can magic up fucking a meteor to kill my enemy at any point when the plot deems it necessary, then you just feel like it's bullshit. And like when you read like, that's why like Harry Potter is considered like good magic, because they explain like, oh, here's the killing curses, here's that, and they usually stick with those spells. But then you have like bullshit magic stories where they just magic up whatever is convenient for the plot. And same thing with time travel. Like you can have time travel work in whatever way you want to, but you have to be consistent with how you explain it. And this story is not this story betrays the time travel that the DC universe existed before it.
And I think the more you try to explain things like time travel, things that like we don't actually understand, the harder it is to keep that straight. Like I would have rather them just say like, when you change history, it gets fucked up. When they go into like the reverse speed force has different rules, it's like, that's stupid. Just say it does. Just even when things are like, we don't really understand how it works. Yeah, I would rather have that than this total nonsense.
Yeah, either be consistent or just don't give an explanation whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of times the best handling of time travel is just it creates another timeline. That's it. When you go back in time,
I agree.
It's another timeline. Because here, the reason it gets into such messy territory, it's because like, no, it's the same timeline, but you affected the future. But then he never would have gone back in time to punch his mom because he'd be coming out of this world. So how could it have ever happened in the first place?
Yeah.
So it's just, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trope that I hate, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it because we've definitely talked about it a bunch of times on the show, but I have to mention it every time I can. And it does kind of tie into Flashpoint. Not in a obvious way, but it definitely does. The concept of fridging, when you just introduce a love interest just to kill them. And I feel like Barry's mom in this story just exists to be a decision Barry has to make.
That is it's such a good point, because Barry's mom, you would think in a story about Barry's mom being alive, she'll be a character, but she's not a character at all. She's in the first issue and the last issue.
She's in the first issue and then at the very end. And all she's there to is be like, hey, Barry, this is the good thing that exists in this world. And then at the end, she just gives him the blessing so that he doesn't have to feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
So, like, her arc is just to make Barry feel bad and then make Barry feel better.
I mean, she's not a character at all. She's just they're objectifying her. But they actually are. She's just like a thing that he's like, I'm sad.
A goal. She's just like a goal for him to get retained.
And it's actually interesting because I don't think I've ever seen fridging done in a way that wasn't sexual. Like, she's not a romantic character, but she's definitely follows the same exact trope of introduce a love interest or introduce a female character, introduce any character just to kill them or to have them just push the main character's, narrative along instead of actually developing them at all. Like, name a trait about Barry's mom that isn't Barry's mom.
You can't.
You can't. There's nothing.
She likes going to dinner on her birthday. That's why you do that.
That's who doesn't like to do that?
Yeah.
I would actually be really interested in what any of our listeners' tropes are that they either like or dislike, because like we talk a lot about tropes. I feel like that's like kind of the main theme of this show is like dissecting the tropes that are used in things, and sometimes used well, sometimes used poorly. And like if you guys have any tropes of your own that you like or dislike, write us in. Divisive Issues at whatever media you're on. It's the same account for everything. So now, recommendations.
Let's go first.
You go first, Sly.
All right, my recommendation is The Flashpoint Paradox, which is the movie version of this story. And like Phil was saying, like he could never imagine this story ever being good. And I felt the same way, which is why I really admired the movie, because I feel like even if you don't think it's good, which I think it is good, I think it is an amazing testament how good they made it, considering how shitty the source material is. And like it solves a lot of the problems I have with the story. Like most of the really unimportant characters, like Elemental Woman or Citizen Cold, did not edit it at all, and they focus just on the characters that actually matter.
Wait, who is that?
Also
who
actually
matters besides Flash?
Well, Cyborg matters because he's like the military guy who gives him to Superman, and that's a good point. Like, who matters? The movie makes you feel like these characters matter because, like, even though, like Superman's story in the movie is actually my favorite aspects of it, because when they go to save him in the book, he's like pretty much like you only like him because he's Superman. You know Superman, so you like Superman.
Yeah.
In the movie, they have this really cool arc where Cyborg is like he's like a heroic government guy working for Obama, and he's saving people. And Superman looks up to Cyborg, and basically he models himself after Cyborg. And there's an interesting subplot with that, and it's actually touching. And they're basically all actually characters. These aren't just elements to move the plot forward. Yeah. They're actually characters, and that's why I really admire it. And I recommend it. If you want to see the story done well, go watch the movie.
Yeah, I'm still a little harsh on the movie through no fault of its own because the end is still really, really stupid.
This is the end of the book.
But that's not the movie's fault. That's like they can't change the entire plot of the book, if they're going to adapt it. So like the movie is the best version of this story that I think you can make. And they definitely flesh out a lot more, and there's a lot more. Like, there's stuff like, you mentioned the, like, Super Obama Cyborg and stuff.
Yeah.
There's one panel of him wearing a Made in America button while he talks to Obama, and I feel like they take, like, the concept and actually flesh everything out in a way that none of that shows up in the book at all.
Yeah. What about you, Phil?
I'm going to give a non-comic book related suggestion and say that...
What?
Yes. Yeah,
heresy.
I'm allowed to do that. You can't stop me.
You're not even the first one. Sly's recommended movies before. I've recommended
I'm going to
shows.
recommend TV shows and movies that are not based on comics at all.
What was that? You recommended like a horror movie or something once.
Yeah,
so like...
Fine. So I'm not the first. I get it. Okay. If you want to see time travel done really well, this is an anime called Steins Gate. It's actually based off a visual novel, so it kind of is like a comic, but. Fuck you, Phil. It's an anime that takes this concept of I don't want to give too much away, but of altering the past and it's the implications that it could have, and does it in basically everything Flashpoint does wrong, that show does right. It's all the characters are so you get so connected to the characters, and they handle, like you said slide before about consistency. They handle everything consistently within the universe, so that you never feel like, oh, this is dumb. You're like, this is just how it works here, and it feels very logical.
Cool. What about you, Ryan?
I am gonna recommend an arc of Geoff Johns' Teen Titans called Titans of Tomorrow. I think his whole run is definitely worth reading, but this arc in particular, the reason why I'm recommending it is because it's Geoff Johns telling a time travel story that is so much better, and it also has a darker Batman in it, and like the heroes are maybe more edgy and darker than they, are in the regular universe, but it's just way better than Flashpoint in every single way. And also Mike McKone does the art, and even though I liked Andy Kubert's art, I like Mike McKone a lot more.
Cool. So is that it?
That's it.
Yeah. Rate and review us on iTunes.
Tell us if Phil
please.
sucks.
Also, okay, whoever wrote the review under the username Wes Willis, tell me who you are, because I want to know. It might be, because it can't be.
It could be Wesley Willis.
Is it really Wes? But he's dead.
Well, it could be him coming back in time to tell us. Wait, he died past.
Wait, he died.
So
before,
he's coming forward in time.
Okay.
It makes sense because
of
the Speed Force and the reverse Speed Force. When they come together, Wesley Willis is alive.
Right.
If anyone should be the reverse of a hero, I think Wesley Willis would be the one. He whooped Spider-Man's ass
and Batman's ass.
Yeah,
that's true.
Okay.
So I think that'll wrap it up.
So I've been Sly Crappa.
And I've been Ryan Lynch.
And I'm always Phil Mavrikis.
Stay in continuity.